Welcome to the Pivot Experience podcast, where leadership transformation isn't just a concept, it's a journey we take together. This is where real leaders share real stories about the moments that changed everything. In each episode, we dive deep into the pivotal experiences that transformed good leaders into great ones. Whether you're a seasoned executive, a rising star in your organization, or someone ready to take that next big step in your leadership journey, you're in the right place. Get ready to learn, grow, and maybe even find that spark that ignites your own leadership pivot. This is the Pivot Experience podcast, where your next breakthrough starts here.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. Hey, listen, do me a favor, like, share, and subscribe this channel so you can continue to pivot into your next.
What's up and what's happening, TPE family? We're back with another episode of the Pivot Experience podcast, where our aim and goal is to help leaders pivot into their next. My name is Alex Seal, and I've had the pleasure and joy for working for one of the world's most caring brands for the last 23 years. And in that time frame, I've had the opportunity to learn about business, to learn about leadership, and ultimately learn how to manage and steward people. And today we have an expert on the matter of talent. I'm so excited to facilitate this interview with this individual. On this episode, I don't plan on doing a whole lot of talking. I actually plan on learning a little bit, to bring things into my business and into my workplace in the area of talent. I am talking about having the guest by the name of Andrea Hoffer. Andrea, how are you doing today?
I'm great, Alex. How are you?
I'm fantastic. And so as I'm reading through your bio, I'm looking through the things that represent you. It says that you have over 30 years worth of talent experience. Wow.
Yes, I actually started on college campuses.
Wow. Okay.
And that was one of the best learning experiences in helping college students to develop leadership skills and to exceed their potential. And I think that was an amazing foundation for everything that I do today. So yes, it was it was over 30 years, and I hope I look younger than I actually am. So
Yeah, no, definitely. So I want to say thank you so much for taking some time out to spend with us and talk about the area of talent. You've already touched on this a little bit, but I wanted to know, how did you get drawn to this level of employment? How did you get drawn and inspired to chase a passion in developing talent and helping people retain talent?
Well, actually, it's kind of funny. When I was a child, there was this desk outside my bedroom, and it was my Aunt Bertha's, who I had never met because she passed away long before I even existed. But she studied human behavior, and her doctoral thesis, this was in the 1930s, amazingly, that a woman was getting a doctorate then, was about how values influence behavior in children, and especially later on. And so since that time, because I kept trying to read her doctorate every year, I was always really fascinated with human behavior and just why people show up the way they do. And eventually that turned into me going into college student personnel work, which is a fancy name for saying helping college students, like I was saying earlier, to develop leadership skills and to help them to really just be successful in the world. And from there, I ended up taking what I learned there and just going into business and using those skills to help teams thrive. And I started by owning a spa. It was a franchise, Massage MB. And then from there, I had the same struggles all new business owners, well, probably all business owners, not just new business owners, have. I had a team of 33 people, and they all had different things going on in their lives, right? And I think that was about the time when I started saying people are wonderfully messy. And it's because we have all these forces on us, and people really want to do a great job. They want to be successful. It's just sometimes there are these challenges in the way. And so I like helping to bridge some of those challenges. We at AHA, we focus mainly on the hiring aspect and onboarding and engaging employees once they're there. But it's just always fascinated me, and that's sort of a short way of how I got into it. But it really started when I was younger, and just always was fascinated by people.
That's probably one of the most unique stories that I've heard in terms of someone, learning their passion. Like what a piece of history to be able to look at a family member's work and be inspired by that. And what a legacy that your aunt left you by, and maybe it was intentional or not, but it fell into your hands, and it really changed and shift the trajectory of your life. And so kudos to her for that. That's pretty unique. You said something in the intro that I think is very interesting, and I might want to sit here a little while. I'm assuming this is a phrase that you've coined. Would you say wonderfully messy? Am I saying it right? Can
Yes,
you
that
can
people are wonderfully messy.
you
Yes.
know, and then on the surface that might connotate one thing, but I really do believe the way you started kind of explaining that, I think we all have some level of calamity, especially when you're in leadership, business ownership, when you start to
Yes.
climb the ladder and acquire more responsibilities. Oh, how messy life is. And so, do you have any other context or any other conversation or thoughts around this idea of being wonderfully messy?
Oh, I have a lot. The thing that comes to mind the most, and it took me a while to learn this, and I'm not saying I'm nowhere near perfect with interacting with people. I think it's something we're constantly learning and developing as ourselves. But I think I've had lots of team members over the years in all different roles, and had people above me, as well, and people that I've supervised. And I've found that sometimes you come to expect certain things from people because of the way they've shown up in the past, because of patterns, right? So you've had, say, an amazing team member for 2-3 years, and you kind of expect that to continue, but something happens in their life, or maybe something even happened on the job, and you're not aware of it, and it sort of shifts the way they start showing up. And that's where some of that messiness comes in. It's not like something you could just say, well, shift back to the way you were before or improve this. It's, what's going on? How can we all shift and come together so that we can be successful? And that's something I have to remind myself quite a bit. For myself as well, sometimes we have to give ourselves a little bit of a break too.
No, I can't agree any more, like, any more with you. It's one of those things when I think about that phrase, I think for me personally is a messy life also entails having to navigate all of the different responsibilities that you might have as a human being and understanding how to prioritize those different hats. Like, I was born into this world a son, now I'm a father. So I still toggle between, being in that one capacity with my parents and then now having to parent, in my line of employment. I'm a leader, I'm a manager, so I'm stewarding people, but you still might have a boss. So the textures of how you go about interacting and weaving between those two things differ. Not to mention you're married, and then so you have that hat to wear too. And so I think
Mhm.
sometimes all of those different, I don't want to call them different personalities because you still are the same person, but all those different priorities, kind of not say get in the way, but can present themselves in other areas of your life where, hey, this is not the hat you should be wearing here, or this is not the hat you should be wearing there. And so I love the idea that you talk about these different things as it relates to talent and personnel, because those are realities. A lot of times, and I tell people now, and I don't know if this resonates with you. 15 years ago in the workplace, you used to be able to tell someone, "Hey, check your feelings at the door." When you walk in the door,
Yeah.
you're coming to work. Today's workplace is a little different. I don't think you can
Mhm.
you can uphold those. Well, actually, it might have been bad then, but that's just kind of how we came up, and we thought it was okay. But now the workplace is a whole lot more aware and hypersensitive to that level of thinking. And I guess the question that I'm leading into with this is, how are you seeing the impact of emotional intelligence on today's workplace versus 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
Uh,
And
you
I
know what? It's
apologize for hitting you with that. I apologize if that's a question that might be a little bit loaded, but I feel like you're up to the task.
Yeah, no, I love being challenged. And emotional intelligence comes up a lot every single day. And I should mention now, we focus mainly on businesses that hire hourly employees. But we have worked with many businesses, and of course, in my career, I've worked with many businesses where maybe there were roles that were full time and expected a certain level of that professional. Not that the hourly employees don't expect professionalism, but it's a different sort of approach. Um, I think, I'm not. I think some organizations are approaching emotional intelligence a little bit more, where they're concerned about the team members, the employees, and how they can help them to be more successful. And I am seeing a lot of that. I also am seeing a lot of, they want team members who are coming in with some sort of emotional intelligence, so that even just talking about customer service, emotional intelligence is so important. We've done a lot of hiring for some bridal shops, and emotional intelligence is one of the top things they ask for, because brides come in with so much going on. It's not just the emotion about their wedding, but it's, maybe there's a family member who passed away recently, and that's bringing up different emotions. And they've had customers who will, start crying in the middle of shopping for their dress. And so the person who's helping them needs to be able to kind of take a step back and speak with them. And I think you asked about the change over the last 15 years. I almost think even 15 years ago, we've started to see more of a focus on emotional intelligence. Now, if you asked me 30 years ago, I do think there's been a big change. But I feel like, because I'm thinking AHA's been in existence almost 15 years, and I've been, emotional intelligence has been such a big topic and something always organizations are bringing in. But when I first came into the workforce, I don't remember ever, not even just hearing that term, because maybe the term wasn't being used, but hearing people, making it a priority. I don't know if
No,
that answered your question the way you wanted me
no,
to
no,
answer
no. I think you,
it.
no, I think you did very well. I do believe that I would have to agree with you that, as years pass, I've been in the workplace for over 20 years, and I would say that it has gradually, from that 20-year mark to now, has become more and more integrated. It might have been absent in the very beginning for sure, but I think there's been a certain level of integration into what we do in the workplace, and prioritizing its importance. And so I have to agree with that. I think now I would like to shift the conversation to talk more about your dream framework. I think this is some of the home run work that you're doing with your company, and so I would love for you to expound on what is the dream framework, and how can businesses take advantage of leveraging it for their talent.
Sure. So I've been talking for years about the different steps that are important when you're hiring. Because a lot of times people think, oh, I have a job open, I'm just going to copy a job posting that looks good and throw it out there, and not go through some of the thinking that needs to be behind it. And it's funny. I wrote a book called Hire about 2 years ago, and it talks about the three steps. It's a very practical guide in going through hiring so that you're much more effective. But then about 6 months ago, I was putting a talk together, and I wanted to encapsulate everything. And our tagline is "We build dream teams." And all of a sudden, I'm like, wait, everything we talk about fits into this DREAM. So I started just doing everything I talk and everything I write, saying, hey, it fits into the stream framework. So that's my little background on it. But I will do a brief overview of what it is, if you want. Do you want me to
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
go through? So it's pretty straightforward, and then you can kind of ebb and flow through it and dig in. D is define. It's getting, and this is the part that everybody skips, and unless they know, they know how to do hiring well. We have a discovery session that we've been doing since, as long as I can remember. And that fits in the define. It's when we're asking a lot of questions, we're getting stories from the employer, from team members. What is it like to work here? What are your core values? But not what's on the paper, not what they ask you to memorize. How does that show up every day? What's truly going to appeal to the people who would be successful here? What are the success traits? So it's digging in. And once you've done that research and really understand who you are as an employer and who would be successful in your organization, then you can go to the next one, which is R, and that's reach. Right? DR, yeah, reach. And that's when you start to create the different ways of reaching out to people. Job posting is number one, right? A lot of people say job postings are dead. Maybe they are in their own form, but they're still necessary, I feel. But they're not, this boring, like, some people just put their job description up there. That's an in-house document. You want the job posting to be a marketing piece that builds on everything you learned in the define stage and truly promotes who you are and speaks to who you're looking for and who would be successful there. So we have a whole job posting formula that we use, and then of course that builds into social media as well and other ways that you would reach your potential candidates. The next is engage, and unfortunately a lot of employers fall down on engage, and engage is all about the candidate experience. How are you engaging them? Are you even communicating with them at all? Do they have to wait 3 months before they hear back from you? Do they even know their application was received? And then we move to A, which is assess, and any type of assessment comes in there. And I don't mean those, assessments. I mean like interviewing. Regular assessments could come under there as well. But we talk a lot about how to ask interview questions and what to listen for. And then M, that's motivate and inspire. That's what brings it all around. Are you still living those core values that you attracted your team members on? How are you noticing what's going on in their lives, and how, do they need something different to be successful? Are you inspiring them every day? So that's in essence what the dream framework is all about.
No, I absolutely love that, and I feel like a lot of organizations have missteps along, are they clearly defining what's going on, or that engagement component. I know I talked to some of our people some years back and say, hey, if we're not, even if we don't think they're the right applicant, we still need to communicate with them, and give them they're sitting out there in the abyss just thinking like they're gonna call me, and they never do, and we don't realize that puts a black mark on our business. Like, it makes us look like we're negligent. It makes us look like we're not, we don't care about them. We don't want to see them succeed. So I love that framework. That's awesome. And I think a lot of people can adopt that into, and that seems like, even if they don't engage with you on the professional level, this is some things that they can incorporate into what they do already to at least get them started and headed in the right direction. So I love that framework. Now,
Yeah, I just want to mention, I'm sorry,
go
I
ahead.
have a LinkedIn newsletter, comes out every Wednesday, totally free, where I dig in on each of these, steps to the framework. And so there's lots of great information there if anybody needs help.
Oh yeah, so we're gonna definitely open up the runway for you to be able to tell them how to get to that towards the end of the show. I want you to website, Instagram, LinkedIn, the whole nine, because we wanna make sure that every guest that comes on the Pivot Experience podcast has an opportunity to network and connect with people that listen to the show. A lot of the great moments and nuggets of wisdom that you guys have, we want to be able to extend that beyond just this conversation. So definitely we'll create the opportunity for you to do that. But my next question is, as a talent optimization expert, what are some strategies that you have either developed yourself or witnessed in the workplace that are effective for businesses and leaders, particularly in that demographic that you service? You say you service the hourly worker, and so what are some strategies do you feel like that are most effective in helping businesses optimize their talent?
Okay, and I should mention, when I talk about optimization, a lot of it is around process. Well,
Okay.
really two pieces. It's process, and it's also the the social media that you put out there. Are you constantly doing some posts or nurturing or conversations around what it's like to work in your organization, and not just putting job posts out there when you need somebody? I always say L'Oreal is one of my favorite uh, companies to follow when it comes to doing some social media pieces around that. So that's a good example if anybody wants to look them up. They do a lot of like behind the scenes. They even talk about what it's like to interview with them. Anything you can do to continue to engage people. The optimization part also falls under process a lot, and this is where I see a lot of people fall short. When clients first started coming to us, 10 years ago, a lot of them were taking paper applications. Okay. You got to remember 10, 12 years ago, things were a little bit different, but we still were advanced enough that paper applications wasn't the best. Then we started seeing, and we're still seeing this, which amazes me, that they're getting applications through email. And a lot of the people we work with have fairly high volume hiring needs. They're hiring all the time. And I remember we have one multi-unit franchisee from Cold Stone that started with us long ago. And they said, we have hundreds of applications. I said, great. What ATS? What software program do you have them in? Oh, no, they're all in our email. We have no way of organizing them. So the easiest, I always say, the easiest first step, if you're really that, don't have any sort of process of organization, is to find a good applicant tracking system that you can use. And I often will recommend different ones depending upon people's needs. There's all different prices. Some are even free. But as far as optimizing your process, getting a software that will bring in all the applications to one place, and where you can manage it like a project, each job like a project all the way through, is one of the best things. And we often will work with clients add in automations. You'll be amazed and I'm not talking about AI. I don't want it's people are still looking at the resumes. There isn't a machine making the decisions. It's just these softwares help with the management of each step, which enables you to give a better candidate experience. Now, we do use AI in different areas, and I'm happy to talk a little bit about that. But I'm not quite at the point of um, thinking that AI works for doing the initial screening. I have not, and I apologize if there are companies out there doing that. I'm sure you're doing some amazing things. I personally haven't found one yet that I like as the complete initial screening. But those are just a couple of things as far as optimization goes.
No, I know. I number one, I want to say, I think I'm a firm believer of you need data quickly to make good decisions. I feel like sometimes, when data is sluggish or it's hard to get to, it clouds your ability to make the effective decisions. And so optimizing the systems to where you're getting the applicant information, the relevant applicant information in a timely manner is important. So I love that you highlight that. And that's just not applicable to talent. I think that's applicable to any information data
Yes.
in your organization, but specifically in the area of talent, I think having efficient means to be able to have. I tell people all the time, I say, I want my information within the arm's reach. I don't want to have to dig here, dig there, dig this, dig that. Like at that point, like if I got to do that for every data point, I'm going to lose momentum in what the answer that I'm trying to get to. So I love the fact that you talk about that. I also can appreciate, because we're in a world of AI right now where people are using AI for everything. But, there still needs to be some of your lens, your expertise, your filtering on the initial process. Maybe you can automate some things further downstream that are AI driven. But I love the fact that you're still saying, I got to prioritize me as the expert in the area to be able to still do that initial screening, and then maybe I'll let AI take the reins after that. And you mentioned that you wanted to go into some detail about AI, and I would love to see how you're using AI in your business.
It's interesting. We're using AI more on the employer branding side. And so I talked about D to define. Just to give an example, we'll sit with a hiring manager for an hour, 90 minutes, record that session where we've pulled out of them all the important things that they're looking for, stories about past successful people in the roles. We'll record it, put it into a transcript, and feed it to AI. And that, and then I'm very big into AI. I have several AI certifications. Should preface this. So sometimes I can go down the hole with this, but AI then helps us, just like you said, take that data to create our job postings, our interview questions, our social media campaigns, all of those things to speak to the people that the hiring manager described. And it often will take the hiring manager's own words. And I found it to be so much more effective than when we used to take copious notes and and apply our formula from there. Now, of course, it's a lot faster, but I also feel like it's a lot more accurate, and very powerful and authentic. And so that's one of the ways we use AI. But I also recommend to people when I speak, I talk about different prompts you can use. And where, for example, often when I meet with a hiring manager, I'll say, well, what do you want this person to accomplish in the first 90 days? Because we want to put that out there. We want to let them know what's going to be expected of them. And it's hard for them to articulate it right away. So we say, well, why don't we ask ChatGPT? Put in there everything you know about the role, and then say, give me some ideas of what outcomes I should expect in the first 90 days. And then you can, you're not going to just copy and paste it, right? You're going to look through it. I always say you're not just copying and pasting, you're reviewing. But it gives you a really good starting piece. I love using it as a brainstormer in that way. Even at some of them, sometimes organizations won't have very clear core values. Or they'll have, their plaque with the core values, but they won't know how to recognize that if somebody really resonates with them. So, and it's hard for them to figure out behaviors connected to observable behaviors. So I often will say, well, let's ask ChatGPT, give as much information as you have about your core values. The more you give it, the better response you're going to get. And just say, could you give me 5 observable behaviors from somebody who lives this core value? And then see if any of that is true. Does that, and then, so the more you do that, the more definitive you can get about who you want to attract and the best way to speak to them.
I think AI is all about prompting. Your ability to prompt it is going to give you the best results. And like, I don't know about you, but it's kind of like you have to reverse engineer how your brain works when it comes down to approaching Chat GPT, because it's like,
Right.
dealing with it, you have to almost think like you're literally talking to a person. You can type it out as if you're asking a person to execute a task, and then it's going to
Mhm.
give you. I mean, I can't tell you, like, I use that same transcript exercise or procedure in my business, where I might have a meeting. I've voice recorded it, gotten the transcript off of it. Give me the insights, and let's derive something from this. And I've gotten comfortable to enough with ChatGPT where I just it's almost like not like talking to it, but like I tell it like I'm giving a directive to a person, and it executes, what, way faster than the person would. We obviously know that, but I think a lot of people are stifled because of it, because a lot of us have been professionals before this technology was available to us, and I don't think we've ever would have imagined being able to interact with our computers or interact with
Yeah.
software in this capacity. And I think that's what stifles a lot of people from really unlocking the potential. I tell people all the time, like, I have the capacity, if I had 5 free hours to do this whole entire program. But why would I do that when I can take a solid 15 to 30 minutes of superior prompting to get the bulk of the work done? And then, like you said, review, make sure your tonality is there, your verbiage is there, and all that. Like, so AI is if you want to speed up, optimization in anything, or if you don't have a lot of those materials already put in place, like you said, you can start interacting with, there's more than Chat GPT, but there's a lot of different platforms out there. Start interacting with it, and you'll be able to get to what you want to get to. So no, I love that. And so, Andrea, I've really enjoyed the time. I want to segue into a segment that I've been doing with all my guests, and this is a bit of a surprise. And so I hope you're ready for it. Are you willing to play the game? Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to
Cool.
give you I'm going to give you a set of words that
Uh-oh.
seemingly you have to have. Like, you need both of these, but you got to pick one, and you got to tell me why you chose the one over the other. Okay? I like to call it Tug of War. Are you ready?
Yeah, so it's just 2 words and I'm choosing one.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. So the first set of words is empathy or accountability.
Um, oh my goodness. I'm gonna say empathy,
Okay?
but I'm gonna tell you that even probably 10 years ago, I would have chosen accountability. So I think my priorities have shifted a little, but I do think both of those are very important.
Yeah, that one trips up a lot of people, because
Yeah.
depending on where you are in the organization, you go, well, I gotta have accountability, but empathy is really so they this is the point of this. So these words kind of make you really challenge you on what your core values are, what you really lean into. So your answer is empathy, and then that's okay. My answer is empathy too. I'll share that. I would lean more towards being empathetic versus leaning into accountability. But I understand that we can't be effective as an organization if we didn't have accountability. So, but if I had to
Mhm.
choose one, I'm choosing empathy. Next set of words: innovation or consistency.
Oh my goodness, you really are getting to my 2 things that go together. Uh, I'm going to say innovation. I talk about consistency a lot, which is funny, but I am probably an extremely innovative person. I'm always trying to think of something new, so it would be hard for me not to choose innovation.
Awesome. Okay. Clear expectations or freedom.
I'm going to clear expectations. I'm big on I'm big on people knowing what they expect of each other. And I feel like communicating that can, stop a lot of challenges before they happen.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And here's the last set of words: results or relationships.
Ooh, that's hard. Um, I'm going to say relationships, and relationships in the sense of any type of relationship. My family is really important to me, and so I do prioritize my family over results sometimes.
No, that's honest and that's true of you. So I love that answer, and thank you so much for playing Tug of War. Now, can you let the audience know if they want to continue to optimize their talent, if they want to understand how to hire higher, if they want to understand more about the dream framework, how do they connect with Andrea?
The best way is through LinkedIn. I'm there a lot. So if you go to LinkedIn, slash Andrea Hoffer, like it's all one word, um, you'll find me there. But you can also go to ahatalentexperts.com. That's our website. If you want to connect with me fast, directly, LinkedIn is the best. And I love hearing from people on LinkedIn. I love to get conversations started.
Awesome. Well, I want to appreciate you sharing your knowledge around talent. I've been able to gain a lot of great insight today. Hopefully, you've enjoyed being a part of the Pivot experience today. And I'm assuring you that you have helped some people, whether they're in the talent expertise or not. You've helped some folks pivot into their next. And so, TPE family, that's all we have for today. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Pivot Experience podcast. Please do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share this content with as many people as you can. It really helps us continue to grow the channel and ultimately help people get better. As on this episode and the ones that we've had before, we're all about helping people get better. And I think today's episode definitely did that. Thank you so much, Andrea, for joining the show. And we'll catch you next time.
Hey guys, what's up? It's your friend, Pastor John R. Adolph from the Antioch Church in Beaumont, Texas. And I just want to slip this in right quick so you'll never forget. It's all about progress over perfection here at TPE.
Tap into the Pivot Experience where we help young, hungry entrepreneurs move on to the next step.